My name is Christian Ashley, a seminary student and servant of God, and you are listening to the Let Nothing Move You podcast, a proud Anazal Ministries podcast. Welcome back, everyone, to the next episode of the Let Nothing Move You podcast. I'm your host, Christian Ashley, as we continue and finish the book of Judges today. And it's not just me again. Today, I have again Coriro, Foreign Saints podcast, for us to finish the book. You know, this is one of the sections he really wanted to get into. I can definitely see why. We'll get there when we get there. Karai, how's it going?
It's going good, man. It's going good. You know, I'm like a bad head cold that you just can't quite get rid of. But I appreciate you letting me show up for the finale.
If I have my way, I'm never getting rid of you.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's been good. It's been good stuff, man.
We, as mentioned in the previous episodes, we've been talking about the poly pals and the like. We're actually going to be doing an episode later today to release whenever he feels like it, because he's in charge of that. I imagine it's going to be a time of us just clowning on. You know what?
Yeah.
I need some joy in my life, and clowning on idiots who think they understand Scripture is one of my favorite things in the world to do.
We're going to be teaching the faith by making fun of stuff. If that sounds like your thing, pop on over to Foreign Saints for some levity and some spirituality. It'll be great.
Perfect. All right. Are you ready to head into this one?
Yeah, let's do it, man.
All right. We're finishing off Judges with chapters 19 through 21, starting with chapter 19, verses 1 through 9. In those days, when there was no king in Israel, a certain Levite was sojourning in the remote parts of the hill country of Ephraim, who took to himself a concubine from Bethlehem in Judah. And his concubine was unfaithful to him, and she went away from him to her father's house at Bethlehem in Judah, and was there some 4 months. Then her husband arose and went after her to speak kindly to her and bring her back. He had with him his servant and a couple of donkeys, and she brought him into her father's house. And when the girl's father saw him, he came with joy to meet him. And his father-in-law, the girl's father, made him stay, and he remained with him 3 days. So they ate and drank and spent the night there. On the 4th day, they arose early in the morning, and he prepared to go. But the girl's father said to his son-in-law, "Strengthen your heart with a morsel of bread, and after that you may go." So the two of them sat and ate and drank together. And the girl's father said to the man, "Be pleased to spend the night, and let your heart be merry." And when the man rose up to go, his father-in-law pressed him until he spent the night there again. And on the 5th day, he arose early in the morning to depart. And the girl's father said, "Strengthen your heart and wait until the day declines." So they ate, both of them. And when the man and his concubine and his servant rose up to depart, his father-in-law, the girl's father, said to him, "Behold, now the day has waned toward evening. Please spend the night. Behold, the day draws to its close. Lodge here and let your heart be merry. And tomorrow you shall rise early in the morning for your journey and go home."
The no king reigning, bro. What a constant refrain through Judges. And I think the book closes with that refrain too, but
yes.
It's like every time you're about to get into a story that's like super tragic, it's like, hey y'all, remember that there was no king in Israel in those days. It's almost like that, like the text is like, look, you wouldn't even believe what I'm about to tell you. You wouldn't even believe it. But let me remind you, they ain't have no king, dog. They didn't have a king. But I also think it's interesting, that our story begins with a Levite. There's the irony. Like the person that you should least expect any sorts of treachery from, the special people among the special people. So what happens when a Levite recognizes no king higher than himself?
And we saw that in 17 and 18 with Jonathan, the grandson of Moses, more than likely. As the grand reveal is there. There's no grand reveal here for this Levite. He just seems to be a regular Joe Levite. But yeah, it's that same thing. Putting himself as God over his life rather than the God he supposedly serves. And a God he's going to later on appeal to as an authority figure throughout here.
Crazy work. This whole setup is crazy work too, man. Like there's, I don't want to skip too far ahead of where you're at mentally, but just something else I kind of put down in my notes is that the father here is just okay with casually existing with a supposed man of faith who's actively womanizing his daughter. Like, I mean, all right, like,
yeah. Well, we could stay with the family. I mean, there's an interesting dynamic here, and interesting is bad in this scenario. The dad is one of those, like, you see scholars speculate, like, is he just trying to ply, his son-in-law, even though he's not his son-in-law, like, because the concubine isn't his actual wife? Is he just trying to placate him or just keep him there? Maybe if I treat him well, he'll treat my daughter well. Because we don't know exactly why she left outside of her being unfaithful. Was it because he was unfaithful? Was it because he's a jerk? That doesn't justify her being unfaithful. But it's like, okay, well, who's going to stop the cycle here? And the dad seems like, okay, well, maybe if I make him happy, he'll make my daughter happy and she won't come running back to me.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of the sense I get from it. I want to hear what you have to say.
Well, it's tough, right? Because the beginning of the story identifies this lady as a concubine. But then verse 4, that describes the dad as the father-in-law of the Levite. So
yes.
That just makes you question, like, when it calls her a concubine, I go back and forth on this. I'm not really sure. But I wonder if calling her a concubine is the author's subtle but not so subtle commentary on the state of the relationship. Like yes, it's a marriage, right? Father-in-law, it's enough of a marriage that you can call the dad a real in-law. So in that sense, it's legal, but like in truth, there's really no different than concubinage. Like, I wonder if that's kind of what the book of Judges is getting at. Like, it's a marriage, but not. The only way you would know it's a marriage is if I told you it's one. Because if you just looked at their dynamic, you'd be like, that's not a husband. That's not a wife. This is a pimp and his hoe. Like, this ain't, what is this? What is this?
But that's a huge implication by using that word concubine. The implication is he's married already. Unless this is, metaphorical language to describe two people who are very unfaithful to one another, and they're using the word marriage would be a strike against the word marriage to describe their situation.
Right. Or he's married to the other daughter, but we'll get into the other daughter later. It's actually crazy. The story is so wild. It's worse every time I come back to it.
Yeah. This is, once again, we're not ending on a high note here. And, that's kind of the point of the book of Judges. It's like, look, you had hundreds of years to do things on your own and actually listen to me. And now I give you a king, depending on when this is written, and you're still going to screw up, but look at where you were compared to where you are now. Look how faithful I've been. Do you see things like this happening around you? No, but there's still evil amongst you. Get your acts together.
Mm-hmm.
And like this whole, I hesitate to say family dynamic here. It's just baffling. Because you have a Levite taking a concubine, assuming that she is a concubine, assuming he is married, which in the law itself, that word, it's never explicitly said, hey, do not ever take another wife at all. It is for the king. And that is how I can then say, oh, well, if the king can't do it, guess who else can't do it? Or is not supposed to be doing it? God's still going to use this for his own glory. Don't get me wrong, just like he will with Hannah and Elkanah and David and his many wives and the like. But the implication here, on the cry keeps happening to you. Polygamy sounds like against God's will. Like now that you become the polygamy guy, that's your whole shtick.
That is crazy, bro. That is crazy. Because one of those guys does call himself the polygamy guy. So that's crazy. Yeah, it's like, even if you were to go that route, it's like the text doesn't call her a wife. Like, the only reason I'm even considering that is because later it talks about a father-in-law relationship. But I mean, it describes her as a concubine. So I'm like, even if that's the way you roll, I don't think you could make this. I don't think you could make this kosher, bro. under any reading of the law. You
I
know,
mean, the word for father-in-law means you have a wife. What word is there for a father of a daughter who is a concubine to another man?
that's the thing, right? Is like the best case interpretation, the most flattering interpretation of this is he's a single Levite that has a concubine. To go any deeper into the text to try to be more faithful to it makes him out to be worse, which really goes to show how bad the situation is. Like, brother,
Yeah.
I'm trying to be in your corner, but the best I can make you is a common pimp. That's the best I can make you.
Or even like this at the beginning here, like almost in 17, we had that point when Micah comes to his mother, like, I stole the money. I'm so sorry. They mend their relationship. Then they use it to get an idol. Then we get here. It's like, hey, she was unfaithful to me. So he went to go after her 4 months later. Don't worry about that part yet. To speak kindly with her. And it's like, oh, he's trying to mend a relationship. Like, that's what Jesus says you can do. When it comes to your marriage, like, yeah, that's the one case you can have a divorce in is sexual immorality. But hey, try to make things work if you can, forgiveness. And it looks like that. But then when we actually get into the man's character later on, it's like, oh, maybe you started off well, but you kind of ended very poorly here.
You're just a nice guy. I'm a very cynical man. Nah, this guy looks like those Joe Schmoes I mix it up with sometimes that are in like seemingly eternal situationships. Where it's like on again, off again, off again, on again. That's what this strikes me as. It feels like we're just picking up in a cycle just between off and on again. Like they've been off for 4 months and then he goes and finds her wherever she happens to be, or she comes back to him, something like that. That's the vibe, truthfully, that I get in my core reading this. But like you said, well, I have some truly eviscerating stuff to say about this guy's character later on. I'd be curious. I'm curious to your reactions to some of my questions later.
Oh, yeah. Let's see some of that more when we get through 10 through 21. But the man would not spend the night. He rose up and departed and arrived opposite Jebus, that is Jerusalem. He had with him a couple of saddled donkeys, and his concubine was with him. They were near Jebus. The day was nearly over, and a servant said to his master, "Come now, let us turn aside to the city of the Jebusites and spend the night in it." And his master said to him, "We will not turn aside into the city of foreigners who do not belong to the people of Israel, but we will pass on to Gibeah." And he said to his young man, "Come and let us draw near to one of these places and spend a night at Gibeah or at Ramah." So they passed on and went their way, and the sun went down on them near Gibeah, which belongs to Benjamin. And they turned aside there to go in and spend a night at Gibeah. And he went in and sat down in the open square of the city, for no one took them into his house to spend the night. And behold, an old man was coming from his work in the field at evening. The man was from the hill country of Ephraim, and he was sojourning in Gibeah. The men of the place were Benjamites. And he lifted up his eyes and saw a traveler in the open square of the city. And the old man said, "Where are you going, and where do you come from?" And he said to him, "We are passing from Bethlehem in Judah to the remote parts of the hill country of Ephraim, from which I come. I went to Bethlehem in Judah, and I am going to the house of the Lord. But no one has taken me into his house. We have straw and feed for our donkeys, with bread and wine for me and your female servant, and the young man with your servants. There is no lack of anything." And the old man said, "Peace be to you. I will care for all your wants. Only do not spend a night in the square." So he brought him into his house and gave the donkeys feed, and they washed their feet and ate and drank.
So this feels eerily familiar. Might as well just go ahead and get that out on the table. Genesis chapter 19, verses 1 to 3, people. The two angels came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gate of Sodom. When Lot saw them, he rose to meet them and bowed himself with his face to the earth and said, "My lords, please turn aside to your servant's house and spend the night and wash your feet. Then you may rise up early and go on your way." They said, "No, we will spend the night in the town square." But he pressed them strongly. So they turned aside to him and entered his house, and he made them a feast and baked unleavened bread, and they ate. This should be bringing shades of that back to you. But, this is, again, the literary masterpiece of the Tanakh on full display here, right? it's written this way because it assumes that you've read the first 5 books, or at least the first one, so that when it drops these things, it doesn't have to, like, the author doesn't have to break his own historical narrative and tell you, hey guys, Israel was like Sodom and Gomorrah, right? The prophets do that later on, but they've got their own literary style. This is narrative. Yes. And as you know, cinema buffs will say all the time, it's much stronger in cinema to show instead of tell. Yes. Right? And then the same is true in literature as well. All right. These parallels exist because they're trying to show you something, and the lesson will stick stronger if you figure it out rather than the text just coming out and telling you. But before we get into all that, because I'll get into it a bit more in the next, in 22 to 30. But for now, I want to point out, Jerusalem was known as the city of the Jebusites instead of the Israelites. Isn't it interesting, y'all, that in the days when Israel had no king, that the king's city was overran in that day? The city of peace is not a peaceful place in these days. It's tough, man. That's tough. It's Israel, but like in name only.
Yeah. I mean, they were their servants and everything. They couldn't possibly have overwhelmed them and used their trust and faith in God to take them over. But no, they had to make them their servants. They had to surround them completely and cut them off from everyone else. But no, they couldn't possibly take Jebusites. But what's particularly like ruining here is there's the question that's brought up. Would they have been better off staying the night in Gibeah? This city of foreigners, this city of pagans.
Yeah.
Because look where they end up. No one takes them in. Sacred hospitality is not followed here. And that is like the absolute rule of every culture around there. Like, if you don't follow this, you are the scum of the earth because people depend on you. Travelers depend on people taking them in for the night, being taken care of, so that when you travel, you're taken care of, is the expectation. And yet his own people do nothing except for this guy who, by the way, isn't from the area. He is a fellow sojourner, so commonality sees a sojourner, takes him in.
Mm-hmm. He's the Lot.
Like Lot.
They're going to be for real.
Precisely. And like Lot, he's a complicated man.
Yeah.
As we'll see in a bit.
Ain't everyone. Yeah, it's crazy, man. That kind of touches on another theme that especially the Torah kind of gets into, is this idea of the righteous Gentile, right? Like this idea of the Gentiles, as messed up as they are, sometimes in crunch time, the Gentiles are actually better than
well, he's an Israelite.
God's
he's from Israel.
People. No, I get that, but just like to your earlier question about would they have been better off just going and staying amongst the Jebusites or whatever? And it's like, maybe it's a hanging question for sure. I mean, heck, Joseph was definitely better off amongst Egypt than he was with his own people. Mm-hmm. So maybe, those evil Egyptians, made him second in command. His own brothers wanted to sell him into slavery. So, and Paul picks up this point in Romans 4 that like a true Jew is a Jew internally. The external stuff doesn't matter as much. But are you faithful to the one true God? That's the question.
So now we've got our setup here. Is there anything you want to add before we get to the one of the worst parts?
Oh, no. Let's go ahead and hop into the atheist playground, man.
Oh, boy. 22 through 30. As they were making their hearts merry, behold, the men of the city, worthless fellows, surrounded the house, beating on the door. And they said to the old man, the master of the house, bring out the man who came into your house, that we may know him. And the man, the master of the house, went out to them and said to them, no, my brothers, do not act so wickedly, since this man has come into my house. Do not do this vile thing. Behold, here are my virgin daughter and his concubine. Let me bring them out now, violate them, and do with them what seems good to you. But against this man, do not do this outrageous thing. But the men would not listen to him. So the man seized his concubine and made her go out to them. And they knew her and abused her all night until the morning. And as the dawn began to break, they let her go. And as morning appeared, the woman came and fell down at the door of the man's house where her master was until it was light. And her master rose up in the morning. And when he opened the doors of the house and went out to go on his way, behold, there was his concubine lying at the door of the house with her hands on the threshold. He said to her, "Get up, let us be going." But there was no answer. Then he put her on a donkey, and the man rose up and went away to his home. And when he entered his house, he took a knife, and taking hold of his concubine, he divided her limb by limb into 12 pieces and sent her throughout all the territory of Israel. And all who saw it said, "Such a thing has never happened or been seen from the day that the people of Israel came up out of the land of Egypt until this day. Consider it, take counsel, and speak."
Mm-hmm. So once again, this feels eerily familiar. Genesis 19, 4 to 10. But behold, they lay down, but before they lay down, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, both young and old, all the people to the last man, surrounded the house, and they called to Lot, "Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us, that we may know them." Lot went out to the men at the entrance, shut the door after him, and said, "I beg you, my brothers, don't act so wickedly. Behold, I have 2 daughters who have not known any man. Let me bring them out to you, and do to them as you please. Only do nothing to these men, for they have come under the shelter of my roof." But they said, "Stand back." And they said, "This fellow came to sojourn, and he has become the judge. Now we will deal worse with you than with them." But verses 10 and 11, this is important. The men reached out their hands and brought Lot into the house with them and shut the door. And they struck with blindness the men who were at the entrance of the house, both small and great, so that they wore themselves out, groping for the door. So this situation in Judges extremely similar. It's like the same thing, but with one difference. No divine rescue from verse 11. No divine rescue, right? In Lot's day, God's angels intervened and rescued Lot. I would imagine because of the prayerful intercession of a man more righteous than him,
Yes.
right? But when it comes to the situation in Judges, here the Christophany, or at least the desire for a Christophany, there is no intercessor here, so the evil continues. So firstly, praise be to God that you get an intercessor now. But even more interestingly is the question, right? Why? Why no rescue? And for me, right, it's interesting how many passages in the scripture touch on the problem of evil if you just follow them out, if you let them play out in your head, right? You could ask the question, why didn't God intervene here? He could have. If it's written down in scripture, God definitely saw it happen.
Mm-hmm.
So why didn't he, quote unquote, do anything? My answer is why? Why do you feel that God was obligated to stop this? Which sounds like a ridiculous question. Oh, what do you mean? Get your pitchforks and all that. But really think about it. Had the culture submitted to the law of Moses, they would not be in this scenario. To have ladies getting gang raped on front porches all night long. So here's my question back. Is God obligated to rescue a person, society, or a nation from the consequences of rebelling against him?
No.
Me personally, I don't think so. Right? Like, I think of Romans chapter 1 so much when I read through the stories in the Old Testament, not just for the aggressors, but also for victims, right? Like, if I'm in this woman's shoes, I'm not even letting myself be in this scenario, bro. I would have cut off the relationship with this Levite 4 months ago. So, like, her getting abused is not her fault because she didn't initiate the abuse. But as the Proverbs say, you can only play with fire so much before you get burned by it. So, like, real talk, girl. he didn't show signs of being the type of dude that would let you be gang raped before. This sort of abuse doesn't come out of nowhere, right? Like she had
and to sleep through it too.
You know, like he didn't care. That's a good point, bro. I've thought about that too. Like, dang, bro, you had to get serenaded to sleep listening to this, But like, this is the culture. But it's interesting too, because it's like if you read this and you think, man, God's people were so evil, and then you want to shake your fist at God. One, you're dumb. You need to learn how to read. But two, you're kind of talking to the man in the mirror. Because as evil as they were, we kill babies. Like, how different are we really from Judges 19?
Not too far off.
We just can't see it, And that's the power of the book of Judges. Yeah. It helps you see it. It's like, dang, we're kind of like that.
And yeah, that God's people, as in he's the one who made them into who they are, but they're not God's people because they're not acting as God's people. God's people don't act like this. No one here is a person of God. One's a priest, doesn't make him on the team. It just means he's got the look. Because if he was God's priest, he'd have reminded, hey guys, don't you recall, because I know my scripture because I'm required to, because it's my job. Remember that whole Sodom and Gomorrah thing? Oddly familiar to you too? He could have said something. He could have preached against them. He could have fought against them. Something rather than repeating the mistakes of the past. But instead, his heart proves exactly where he's at, on himself.
Yeah.
They're completely wrong too. The guy, sure, he gave him hospitality. That's great. But you don't break one law to make things right. Giving your daughter and a concubine to them instead of yourselves is just self-preservation for the wrong means, for the wrong end.
See, this is why
greater love.
This is why I don't give the same level of benefit of the doubt to the father as some of the scholars do when they're trying to be like, well, maybe he had like a reason for mixing it up with this guy. Yeah, he was an evil dude. And birds of a feather flock together, don't you know? But like, when you remember this story, you usually only remember the lady who died. But the text tells us that 2 ladies were violated that night. It's just only one of them survived it. But the other lady that got violated was the daughter of the dude. He said, here are my virgin daughter and his concubine. They handed him 2 ladies that night. So it's like, it's not a shock to me, man, that a dude who's willing to hand over his situationship concubine wife to be gang raped is getting along nicely with a father who's also willing to hand over his daughter to also be gang. They're the same kind of man. Of course they get along.
Kind deeds do not make a good man.
Right. I feel like part of the reason people want to explain the dad's actions in some sort of decent way is it's the last vestiges of humanism trying to kick back to life inside of you. Nah, he must have had a good reason, because humans, we might not be the best, but we're not inherently this bad. He wouldn't do this. That's not theology anymore, bro. That's a philosophical presupposition entering into the chat under the skies. How do you know he wouldn't do that? Are you saying that because you feel like you wouldn't do that? Is that conviction? Is that the text reading you and you trying to escape it maybe? Who knows? I'm just here. Hey, listen, Christian just brings me on to ask the uncomfortable questions that other people don't usually ask. I force you to stay in it and think about it, bro. You might actually be as evil as Hitler, just without the opportunity. You might be. You might not be. Maybe you're better than me. But you might be. Consider.
And of course, we have the men. As the ESV translates, worthless fellows. Now, if you recall from our time in Jephthah, there was another term used there, worthless men. Is it the same? No. The one in Jephthah, it was Rekim. Follow up on that one. The worthless men as in like rowdy and rampant, not like evil men, but like clearly outside the laws of society. Worthless fellows, on the other hand, if you translate it in the original Hebrew, is Belial, meaning sons of Belial. Another way of saying sons of Satan.
Sons of the devil, brothers of the polypal. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Look at that. Family tree.
So, yes, once again, as we did in our time in Sodom and Gomorrah, we're going to have to answer the homosexuality thing. Yes, absolutely. This is a sin. Does them asking for homosexual favors and actions make them, sons of Belial? Yes. Just like I do when I steal. I do when I lie. I become a son of Belial in many respects. But that's not the point of the text, is that this is especially evil. They are acting this way, breaking sacred hospitality, forcing themselves on people who have done nothing wrong, demanding their way be satisfied. What other way can you describe that person than a son of Satan? So you add homosexuality to the list, but it's not the prime one, as we did forever ago in Genesis.
Man, some people, people just need to get their egos out of it, bro. Because that's just funny to me, man. If you read Judges 19, and the first thing you think is, I need to defend homosexuality. Brother, this is the story of a gang rape of 2 women. Can you put your ego to the side, bro? Not every story is about you, but it is telling that you read the story of a crime and instantly thought to yourself, I have to defend myself. That's kind of crazy. But people really do read the Bible like that. Where it's like, yeah, Jeffrey Epstein was bad, but abortion has nothing to do with it. Like, what? Can I just call Epstein evil? Why we gotta slide into defending your pet sins, bro? It's like don't be so eager. We'll cook you next. Don't be so eager. But yeah, man.
These poor women. No, these poor women. They have very little control to begin with, and yet what little they had is taken from them because it's not enough. I have to defend myself and my new best bro. But not my best bro's gal and not my daughter, who, by the way, I've raised for how many years? Who knows? Doesn't matter, because apparently I don't care about her.
Yeah. Yeah.
As long as I don't get hurt.
Yeah, that's what's nasty about that, man. It's like when you commit yourself to sin, and since you touched on the topic, we might as well talk Rainbow Tribe for a second. When you commit yourself to sin, enough is never enough, which I think is part of the instability that comes along with sin. Is when you're in Christ, you can say, I have enough. You can literally say that, the Lord is my portion and my cup. I'm satisfied with him. You can literally say, he leads me beside still waters and he satisfies my soul, and his rod and his staff, they comfort me. But where does a similar comfort come if you are LGBTQ? Where does it come from? It doesn't. You have to manufacture it. But because we all know inherently that we are terrible manufacturers of peace, we all know deep down it's a shallow replica, which leads to a fragility and an ease of anger underneath the surface. I've seen it so often, bro. The people that consider themselves to be the most tolerant are the most intolerant once light starts to shine. We saw it in Sodom and Gomorrah. Look at this sojourner. Now he wants to judge us. Brother, you're trying to rape people. Have some perspective.
Yes.
Have some perspective.
Do an honest self-assessment.
Right. And as far as, Rainbow Tribe is concerned, it's like, man, you guys are trying to judge us. Well, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. But have some perspective, bro. You want to support leaders that want to push the mutilation of children for an agenda. The sort of thing that would slot in nicely as a substitute story in Judges 19. if this story was unavailable to us. You want to support leaders that are abusing people, you know? Like, it's wild to me, bro. So y'all act like it was only conservatives on Epstein Island. Everybody was there. Everybody was there.
Turns out sin, goes over boundaries when political parties are brought up.
Yeah, because enough is never enough. Enough is never enough. And that's what we see here. Bring me a man. We don't have a man. Bring me your children, but you will appease me, Like, that's crazy work. Something else that I find interesting here, which is why I don't give this guy any credit. Only now is his sense of justice inflamed.
Because I've been hurt. Something's been taken from me, and now everyone else has to know about it. Sounds very familiar.
Right. And presumably the other woman survived the assault that night. She's not mentioned again. And they only ever talk about being outraged at like one person's death. So I assume she survived it. But if that assumption is true, it's crazy how her story of abuse is not told. It's not told, right? So the woman's pain is only utilized, like you said, in the context of something was taken from a man, not an independent image bearer with her own dignity, worth, and value had the most precious thing stolen from her. And that's the only narrative I need to run with. Nah, the only way that her pain has importance is to connect the have-not to a have. And like I said, I'm an equal opportunity offender, right? we just had some fun poking sticks at the Rainbow Tribe Church. It's your turn. How many times do we do that? How many stories of a have-not's pain get ignored because someone in our circle of haves told us to ignore it, told us what really happened, even though they weren't there?
I recently talked to someone who I found out has worked previously with Toby Mac and had worked with DC Talk as well. Now, if you don't know, guys don't know me, DC Talk is my favorite band of all time. Jesus Freak, my favorite song of all time. And guess what? There was some trouble in paradise. And one of those people being Michael Tate, who is a phenomenal singer, a horrendous human being, unfortunately. And that's one of the reasons they broke up, is because they knew what he was doing, but they failed to do anything about it. And, that's one thing Toby regrets. I'm sure Kevin Max has gone all progressive Christian and ruined his theology, which I imagine, you go through your deconstruction. Sometimes they'll actually reconstruct after that. And it's one of those things. It's like there was no call for justice. It was, I can't associate with myself anymore, and I'm not going to bring it to light, but we're going to break the band up and do our solo projects. This is Israel right now. Yeah. DC Talk being a microcosm, that we get to a moral panic when it is brought to the point where they can't ignore it anymore. They know what's happening here. It's probably happening within these tribes too. Benjamin's the only one being called out in a bit.
Yep.
So instead of solving the problem, which is people need to be educated, people need to be brought to the truth, and people who aren't are punished, Israel decides to do what they do in these next two chapters. We can't be like them because this doesn't happen here. It happened in Benjamin. So they're the only ones at fault here. They're ignoring ourselves. And that is something the church is hugely guilty of.
Yeah, it's like when you weaponize truth to defend sin, it can be some of the hardest strongholds to take down. Not impossible, but the only real ingredient that's going to take that down is perseverance. Because, take the George Floyd situation, right? And people are going to be like, George Floyd again. And it's like, see, that very reaction is what needs to be crucified in you because you think you know what I'm about to say.
It's very telling.
Think you do. Because I don't even really disagree with a lot of the reactions on the right? About the George Floyd thing and how BLM was like a whole Marxist thing that was like ran by witches and con artists, because it is.
Yes.
It is and was. Go see where that money went. But what I found so disturbing was that truth, that the leaders of BLM are some of the most hypocritical sons of the devil you'll ever see. That truth oftentimes was weaponized to try to not really have a conversation about what the current interlocutor actually wanted to talk about, which is justice, which is troubling to me because the Proverbs tell us that a righteous man knows justice perfect, right? Like the Proverbs tell us that, right? The whole reason God recorded the story of Sodom and Gomorrah was so that the spiritual descendants of Abraham would know just how important justice is in the heart of God. Well, I don't remember that part, but you didn't read, all right? Reread God's conversation with Abram before it happened. That's what God says. So that his children after him will know to practice justice, right? So it was just interesting to me that deep systemic conversations about justice in the wider culture, but especially inside the house of God, oftentimes go ignored on purpose. We protect abusers. Worse, we protect abusers in other people's houses. It's nasty work. The charismatic section of Christianity is probably the worst for this right now. But we all have to reckon with this. What happens? Oh, church pastor, oh, church elder, when one of your sheep comes to you with an accusation against an elder. But worse, they have evidence, and the evidence is credible. And you internally are brought to a crisis of faith. Do you, quote unquote, betray your partner? Listen, that's how Satan is going to couch faithfulness to you every time, as betrayal to the system of the world. And I'll tell you right now, if you want to have your ticket punched to get into New Jerusalem, you better be a turncoat to the system of the world. You better be.
When Ananias and Sapphira don't give the full amount they say they're giving and lie blatantly in front of Peter, what does he say? You scallywags, I'll just give it all the next time. No. Why have you done this? Drop dead. They drop dead. You know why? Because God takes justice seriously. He takes our hearts seriously in full service to him. He didn't say, all right, embezzle this much and you'll be okay. Or, sleep with this secretary and you'll be okay. Or this wife or this man and you'll be okay. It's like, no, all or nothing. I'm about to, in youth next week, well, the week this airs, preach on James 2. And there's a great line there. James is my favorite guy for a reason. He just says it like it's supposed to. You break one law, you're guilty of breaking them all.
Mm-hmm.
Game, set, match. You are worthless. You are scum. You have no hope of redemption based on yourself. Praise God, we have Jesus.
Praise God, we had an intercessor. You know what I'm saying? Like we should be able to just condemn stories of abuse without feeling the need to correct their narrative. Unless their narrative is grossly wrong. But if someone is just saying hey, I'm currently LGBT, my situation with the church was this, and they tell you their story. And if their story turns out to be credible, I don't need to do any, sometimes, as I've found out, preaching at gay pride festivals, you're going to have people that hate you no matter what you say. Deal with them, right? Just ignore them. But as for everyone else that you can actually do something with, sometimes the biggest opening of a door to further conversation is for you as a Christian to say with equal emphasis, I believe that Jesus Christ rose from the dead to bequeath you with the Spirit of God to change you from practicing homosexual to saint of God. I believe that fully. But I also want to tell you that story of abuse that you just told me is completely wicked. It was injustice that was done against you. And the arrow and the sword of God are both poised at the people that did that to you. And they are so screwed that unless they repent and fully prostrate and kiss the Son, they will feel his wrath, because that's how much God loves you. God loves you so much, oh person that was abused, that he has gatekept the forgiveness of your abusers behind the King of Kings. He is their only way out. There is no bribing heaven's bench. All right. What that church did to get those accusers off the hook will be fully undone in the eschaton. But until that day comes, you please repent.
A great way of putting it. Some people are liars when they'll say, I suffered this and that's why I left. You know what? That's them. Other people, they got hurt and they got hurt bad. And they feel how they should feel, upset.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't change the fact that they need to make things right between them and God. And it also doesn't change the fact that they were hurt. Both are true.
Like,
work with them.
Like when Peter lashes out in the Garden of Gethsemane because he didn't pray when the Lord told him to pray. So when temptation came, he fell to it. What did he do? He took out a sword and he cut off a man's ear, right? But do you hear the spiritual lesson in that, right? How many people have hardened hearts? How many people would have ears to hear if some old unprayed up Peter didn't come along before you and cut off the ear? So what had to happen first, right? Now, luckily, that man didn't have both his ears cut off. But imagine if that was the case. Imagine he had both his ears cut off. He can't hear no more. He is physically cut off from hearing the message of salvation that would save his soul. But what does Jesus do? You know the story. He reached down, he picked up the ear, he put it back, right? God had to do a work of healing in that man who Peter abused to get him back to a baseline where he could even hear properly. That miracle of healing didn't forgive him, but it set him up to maybe be forgiven. There's a lot of people like that in the world. But to protect our own feeling of self-righteousness, we instead write them off and say, oh no, they're just sons of Satan. Yeah, but everyone's story is a bit different. Like you said, some people are liars. Some people are just really in love with their sin. Other people got hurt. You better be prayed up. You better be prayed up more than Peter was in that moment, that the Spirit of God will give you a discernment to recognize between the two, to know when you need to just throw a sharp barb like a John the Baptist and say, you snakes, you absolute Satan pits, how will you escape being condemned to hell? And knowing the difference between those moments and saying to somebody, hey man, that's not Jesus. What you experienced was not Jesus. And I hope that this conversation can begin the process to put that ear back and heal it so that you can hear these words properly for the first time. We got to be wise unto salvation, y'all.
What we're going to see in the next two chapters are people who are rightfully at the start morally outraged. And then we're going to see how morally outraged people can do something initially, maybe, depending on how you interpret some of these, right, and then lose their way, which is a grand story for the entirety of Israeli history. You ready to head forward?
Let's do it.
All right. Chapter 20, verses 1 through 11. Then all the people of Israel came out from Dan to Beersheba, including the land of Gilead, and the congregation assembled as one man to the Lord at Mizpah. And the chiefs of all the people of all the tribes of Israel presented themselves in the assembly of the people of God, 400,000 men on foot that drew the sword. Now the people of Benjamin heard that the people of Israel had gone up to Mizpah. And the people of Israel said, tell us, how did this evil thing happen? And the Levite, the husband of the woman who was murdered, answered and said, I came to Gibeah that belongs to Benjamin, I and my concubine, to spend the night. And the leaders of Gibeah rose against me and surrounded the house against me by night. They meant to kill me, and they violated my concubine, and she is dead. So I took hold of my concubine and cut her in pieces and sent her throughout all the country of the inheritance of Israel, for they have committed abomination and outrage in Israel. Behold, you people of Israel, all of you, give your advice and counsel here. And all the people arose as one man, saying, none of us will go into his sin, and none of us will return to his house. But now this is what we would do to Gibeah. We will go up against it by lot. And we would take up 10 men of 100 throughout all the tribes of Israel, and 100 of 1,000, and 1,000 of 10,000 to bring provisions for the people, that when they come, they may repay Gibeah of Benjamin for all the outrage that they have committed in Israel. So all the men of Israel gathered against the city, united as one man.
Isn't that neat? This sounds so good, right? And this is why I mentioned George Floyd earlier, right? Because do you not see the similarity here? This social thing that happens, right? This crime that happens in the streets gets brought before the public. And when it says in verse 8, all the people arose as one man, did that not happen in America with the death of George Floyd? Did not everyone arise as one man? At least for about 30 seconds before all the dissenters and Twitter did their thing. But for about 30 seconds, everyone arose as one man, right? But like George Floyd, the skewing of social justice happened right from the outset. This man lied. This man in the book of Judges lied. He left out the part. A couple things, actually.
Yes.
Just in quick succession, right? What's the name of that, like, one rule where people say, like, females in a fictional story, like all their conversations just about men. I forget, like, what that
Bechdel test.
The Bechdel test. Yes, this guy's testimony here utterly fails the Bechdel test. The story of this woman's abuse has so much me in it. This dude could be singing falsetto, bro. And it is crazy out here, bro. It's crazy how this is so about him, right? And he leaves out the part of him sending her, of him offering her to death to save his own skin. Is that honorable, good sir? Did you realize that the wrath of the nation would fall on your head if you confessed fully? I wonder. And we see here how the social justice warrior doesn't really want true social justice, because if he did, he'd have to offer himself on the offering block first, because he is the reason that this happened. You know what he should have done? He should have walked out there. Him and the father should have walked out there, swords in hand, shoulder to shoulder, and said, you know what, man? I'm here to fight kidnappers and drink rum, and we all out of rum. That's what he should have said. That would have been an amazing story, bro.
Oh, tremendous.
Even if he went to his death defending these ladies, his name would be remembered.
Now you've created a martyr. A real martyr.
A real martyr, you know? But that's not what he wanted to do. He said, you die instead of me die for you. The exact inversion of the gospel. And now he wants to present this farce as social justice. Okay. But this is where I think, the church should be stepping into conversations on social justice, where we need to have to be able to walk that line of, yeah, she was abused. 2 women were raped and one of them was murdered. That is its own conversation. And as we're handling that, hey, all you enablers, you're not off the hook. But for whatever reason, we as the church, you mentioned it earlier, Christian, if we're good at all at hitting the crime on the head, which is questionable at best, but if we're good at that, we are terrible at holding enablers accountable. Terrible. Because we care more about the reputation of Christ than the substance of Christ.
I will say it as many times as I have to. This is not just a Catholic problem. It's very much a Protestant problem too. He's too important. We'll just move him to this different diocese. We'll move him to this different part of the country where no one knows his name or what he did, so he can do the exact same thing he was doing beforehand. Because God forbid we protect the people under our charge, then make one of our own get what he deserved.
Yeah, it's crazy work, man. The weaponization of empathy. Right? One of the favorite messages and videos on my channel, man. I talked about it against the Rainbow Tribe, but don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted. Improper religion can weaponize your empathy too. They just usually use the term loyalty. Are you loyal to the vision, or do you have the spirit of the accuser of the brethren? Oh, I pay attention. The polypals aren't the only false teachers I pay attention to. They're just who I'm currently boxing. But I know the verbiage of abusers. I know the verbiage of abuser. So for y'all right now, pay attention. I'm going to give you the acronym DARVO, DARVO. All right. That right there is the playbook of how all accusers work. DARVO, deny, accuse, reverse the victim and offender. Lock that in your head and don't let Satan ever pull a fast one on you again. Deny the accusation, accuse the one bringing the accusation and evidence with evil. The more ethereal and intangible the evil, the better, because I'm trying to create doubt in you. And then when you're unstable, I'm going to tell the narrative that reverses the true victim and offender. Now I'm suddenly the victim and everyone else is now the bad guy. Lock that in your head, people, and go weed out the church, man.
And it's sad because it works. Unfortunately, it works. And you had said something earlier. Oh, I remember what it is. Social justice is the cause in Israel this day, in chapter 20. You know what? Good. However, our social justice warrior, the one who has gathered everyone in assembly, like most social justice warriors I'm aware of, sucks at his job. He is not truly there because he's outraged that evil has been done. Once again, as we said earlier, it's because it happened to me. And I'm going to change the story to save my own skin and remove my culpability from it.
Yeah.
And that is why it has become such a dirty word in certain circles for the wrong reasons. Social justice warrior should mean something. That's what we are called to do. If you think differently, you're not reading the same Bible I am. You're not listening to the same Jesus I am. Just because a word has been used and abused by other people who have no business using it doesn't mean that's not what we shouldn't be. We need to fight for justice socially. Otherwise, we're not living in the world and being a part of it, which, by the way, is something we are also told to do. This is why I love a limited form of Christian nationalism. That's also a bad word these days because the wrong people use it. Christian nationalism to me means a Christian is involved with the rulers, with the laws being made in this country to make sure that God's kingdom is being furthered, to make sure the right laws are being passed, the right people, everyone is being looked after. Christian nationalism is not, we're going to make all these arbitrary rules so I can get ahead and I can get what I want passed versus what God wants to get done. Social justice warriors, Christian nationalists, same thing. We should be both, but the right kind. Israel is neither right here and now. Because notice, what does the Levite do here? He asks Israel, what do we do next?
He a Levite.
And if it was Joe Schmo on the street, I might give him some leeway here. He's a Levite. As we're going to see later on, what the main honcho's there too. And not a single one of them thought, let's ask God. So when what happens later happens, and you go, well, they're punishing bad people. Why are they losing? Well, think about that for a second.
Oh my gosh, bro. He preaching. Listen, bro. I'm going to interrupt the anointing real quick with a public service announcement, all right? If you've not subscribed to this man's podcast yet, I need you to fix that. I need you to fix that right now. I need you to subscribe so you can get all the heat that this man is cooking up right now, all right? And since he just started the fire, I might as well add on top of it, bro. Social justice warrior. What a good definition for a Christian. What? We don't care about social justice. Really? Isaiah 42, servant song of the Messiah. We love running Isaiah 42. Behold, my servant, whom I uphold, my chosen, in whom my soul delights. We love that passage, but don't forget, I've put my spirit upon it. He will bring forth justice to the nations. He will bring forth justice to the nations. And who are you supposed to be in? Who are you placed in? The one who brings justice to the nations. That one has ascended to heaven, but he's put his spirit inside of each and every one of us. And according to Matthew chapter 13, the parable of the weeds, he has chosen to sow the seed of us, the sons of the kingdom, amongst the world, in part to establish justice as we preach the gospel, because true justice comes out of gospel flourishing, right? Not shallow gospel preaching, but true gospel discipleship. It creates justice. It can't help but create justice. When I'm discipling people to love my neighbor as myself, when I'm discipling people in Micah 6:8 to learn how to walk humbly, do justice, and love faithfulness with their God. Come on now. Come on now. Someone needs to put an amen in these comment sections, bro. Someone needs to get saved off of this because this is crazy. All right. That's what Jesus says. But notice the difference between how the Lord's chosen servant in Isaiah 42 brings forth justice. Verse 2, right after it says that he put his spirit on him to bring justice to the nations. Verse 2, he will not cry aloud or lift up his voice or make it heard in the street. What? Does that mean that demonstrations are evil? No. But it does mean that you're not operating off of his same spirit if your only social justice demonstration is in the streets and not within hearts and homes and hearts across America and across this world. Come on now, man. What does he say? A bruised reed he will not break, and a faintly burning wick he will not quench. He will faithfully bring forth justice. He will not grow faint or be discouraged. So we shouldn't either. Till he has established justice in the earth and the coastlands, the most distant lands where human beings reside. Wait for his law. Wait for his Torah. Come on. That's who we're supposed to be in. So what are we doing? Stop being so timid when these conversations come up, bro, and give people some kind of life.
Don't be afraid to do your job simply because someone has done your job poorly before you. Just because, well, he got involved with these people and he shouldn't have. She got involved in this organization she shouldn't have. Well, learn from it. Why did they join? Well, this was helping the homeless, or this was organizing, funds for schools in the area, and this person was embezzling, or this person did that. They took advantage of the kids. Okay. Well, learn from it. Your name is child of God if you're his. Lots of people have claimed that title and used it poorly. So don't be afraid simply because someone else screwed up in front of you. Or if I go out and I demand in my church, hey, we should be more active in the government around us. We should be more active in looking after schools and looking after people who are lost and afflicted and need help. Well, we don't want to be like them. We can't be like Black Lives Matter. You know, those screwed up idiots. They couldn't even make this slogan right. It should have been Black Lives Matter too. Because that would have eliminated the idea of all lives matter, because all lives matter too is a stupid sentence.
Yep.
Like, okay.
Crazy work.
Does that mean I don't defend my brother who is of a different skin color than me simply because some other idiot has used a wrong slogan? No. It means I stand up, say they were foolish. Let's do it the smart way. Let's do it the shrewd way. And what we're going to see through the rest of these chapters is none of that.
Oh, it's going to be bad. This is going to be bad, bro.
So what this is for Israel and what this is for us is this is how not to do this. So if we're going to be students of the word, like we all claim to be, because we go to church or because we read our Bibles, let's learn the lesson. This is not how it's supposed to go.
Hey, scholar to the people, man. Let's take it away, man. Take it away. 12 to 28. All right. Let's go.
12 to 28. We got a lot. And the tribes of Israel sent men through all the tribe of Benjamin, saying, what evil is this taking place among you? Now, therefore, give up the men, the worthless fellows in Gibeah, that we may put them to death and purge evil from Israel, which is what they're supposed to do. But the Benjamites would not listen to the voice of their brothers, the people of Israel. Then the people of Benjamin came together out of the cities to Gibeah to go out to battle against the people of Israel. And the people of Benjamin mustered out of their cities on that day 26,000 men who drew the sword, besides the inhabitants of Gibeah, who mustered 700 chosen men. Among all these were 700 chosen men who were left-handed, everyone who could sling a stone in the hair and not miss. And the men of Israel, apart from Benjamin, mustered 400,000 men who drew the sword. All these were men of war. The people of Israel arose and went up to Bethel and inquired of God, who shall go up first for us to fight against the people of Benjamin? And the Lord said, Judah shall go up first. Then the people of Israel rose in the morning and encamped against Gibeah. And the men of Israel went out to fight against Benjamin, and the men of Israel drew up the battle line against them at Gibeah. The people of Benjamin came out of Gibeah and destroyed on that day 22,000 men of the Israelites. But the people of the men of Israel took courage and again formed the battle line in the same place where they had formed it on the first day. And the people of Israel went up and wept before the Lord until the evening. And they inquired of the Lord, shall we again draw near to fight against our brothers, the people of Benjamin? And the Lord said, go up against them. So the people of Israel came near against the people of Benjamin the second day. And Benjamin went against them out of Gibeah the second day and destroyed 18,000 men of the people of Israel. All these were men who drew the sword. Then all the people of Israel, the whole army, went up and came to Bethel and wept. They sat there before the Lord and fasted that day until evening and offered burnt offerings and peace offerings before the Lord. And the people of Israel inquired of the Lord, for the ark of the covenant of God was there in those days. And Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, son of Aaron, ministered before it in those days, saying, shall we go out once more to battle against our brothers, the people of Benjamin, or shall we cease? And the Lord said, go up, for tomorrow I will give them into your hand.
Yeah, that's wild, bro. That's wild, bro. Let me quote y'all something, man, since we talking justice. Proverbs, chapter 1, verses 1 to 3. The Proverbs of Solomon, son of David, king of Israel. You know, that position they didn't have in those days. King of Israel. To know wisdom and instruction, to understand words of insight, to receive instruction in wise dealing, in righteousness, justice, and even worse, y'all, equity. Don't let us say that E word. Don't let us say that. Right? I'll realize, man, as we come into this section here where it really gets to be palpable, but like justice is a big thing in the Bible, bro. 33% of the point of Proverbs is that you would know justice. Another 33% is that you would know equity, right? It tells you right at the start of the book, what are these Proverbs from the king of Israel for? So that you would understand words of understanding, verse 2, so that now that you have the understanding, you can actually deal in righteousness, in justice, and in equity as a king. This is socio-political, the book of Proverbs, dog. Like, in a way, we all kind of rip it out of its context when we say Proverbs is like general advice for life. The book doesn't claim that. The book claims to be very specific advice from an elder king to a younger king being raised up to the position of king so that he would rule justly, so that he would rule righteously, with equality, with equity. The fact that the Proverbs have splash damage blessing for you in your life as not a king is just, the grace of God. You know what I mean? Like, that's not necessarily the point, right? So it opens up with the words of the father, Solomon, telling his son, I want you to rule justly. Proverbs 31, the king's mother, the words of King Lemuel, an oracle that his mom taught him. She says a bunch of stuff, but in verse 5 and 6, or verses 4 to 6 in 31, it's not for kings, O Lemuel, to drink wine, lest they drink and forget what has been decreed and pervert the rights of all the afflicted. Ooh, that's tough. Verses 8 and 9, open your mouth, O king, open your mouth, O socio-political leader, for the mute, for the rights of all who are destitute. Open your mouth, O socio-political leader, and judge righteously. Defend the rights of the poor and needy. All right. What we are seeing out of the tribe of Benjamin in this section is the exact opposite of that. How about we defend the forsaken rights of the guilty instead of the innocent who are abused? If you were wondering, like me, why did Benjamin not listen to them? Wouldn't it have been easier to just hand over the guilty party? Yes. Yes, it definitely would have. But where did they come out of, my friend? See, this is real nasty work, right? It says that they came out of Gibeah. All of Benjamin together came out of Gibeah, the place where the guilty men apparently came from. That's why they defended them. Because the guilty men successfully darvoed, denied it, accused the rest of the nation of coming against them, and then reversed victim and offender. We're really the victims here. all of the nation is coming down on our poor little heads. Defend us, O Benjamin. Give your lives to defend us. That's what happened. The whole tribe got successfully darvoed and nearly got completely eliminated for their foolishness. God is so against them. Oh, yeah, go for it, man.
I'll throw a second one. Well, if we give them up, what about me? I mean, sure, I didn't participate in that. But if we're like executing justice here, I'm next up on the docket.
Hello.
I mean, if I'm the leader of the city, or if I'm a member of the city, or in Benjamin as a whole, well, what if they start investigating me? Or what if there's been confessed? Yeah, oh, maybe you'll give us mercy if we tell you about what other people have done. Well, let me eliminate that potential completely by just arming up to war. Because what sinners are really great at is allying with each other. They don't even have to love each other. They just know, well, if you go down, I'm going down, which is a very terrible place to be in because it shows an unrepentant heart.
Mm-hmm. And that's tough, man. And that's when they all had to band together like the anti-Avengers as God sends out the tribe of Judah first. Is that not interesting? The tribe from whom the scepter will not depart is the one that gets sent out first. Don't you hear it? The rumblings of the chariot wheels of Jesus Christ as he rides out to battle to execute judgment on the evil. They heard it. That's why they all banded together to the last man. Nah, who's coming? Judah? Nah, man. Whenever Judah gets into war, man, their soldiers aren't much of anything. But I'll tell you what, man, they got this lion. Can't no one take him down. We are screwed if he shows up. And show up he did. And show up he did. But it's tragic because he shouldn't have had to. He shouldn't have had to, you know? Like, anyone that wants to fight against King Jesus is going to lose. That includes you, saints of God. But how tragic is it when the great King of Kings has to put down rebellion and civil war within his own borders? He's going to win. Don't worry. If he's going to get justice all the way to the coastlands, as Isaiah said, he'll definitely establish it at home. Judgment begins with the house of God, and how fearful a thing that is. So you better be sure you're right. Because, you know, once them chariot wheels of Jesus get to churning, someone's going down. Someone's going down, bro.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. I find God's responses here just so very funny. Because this is, how does he respond to people asking stupid questions? I'm going to get my will done because you idiots don't know how to word your questions and you don't know how to come to me directly and actually ask the right question. What is their first question to God after making the decision on their own beforehand? We got this, God, but who goes first? Not, did we make the right call? Not, God, are you behind this? Not, God, if we go, will you give us the victory? And if so, what do we need to do to get the victory? No, it's, who shall go up first? Judah, scepter, always on Judah. Jesus, all that right there. Judah, most numerous tribe in the nation. So lesson being, you're trusting in yourselves. You're trusting in the best of the best to take care of this because they border Benjamin, so they have a natural advantage. They know the lay of the land a little better than all of you. So follow after them. See what happens. Oh, they lose. They lose. 22,000 men.
Yep.
They come back, reconvene. Oh, no. What have we done? We're going to weep before the Lord. God, are you behind this? God, are we doing what we're supposed to be doing? God, what do we need to do to make things right between us and you? Because obviously when we lose, that's on us, not you. No. Shall we go again and draw near to fight against our brother, the people of Benjamin? Go up against them so you can lose again. Is the unsaid part of that. Because once again, you're not asking the right questions. And I'm going to see how long it takes you. And then finally, they go to Bethel, they weep, they offer burnt offerings and peace offerings. And they inquired of God, the Ark of the Covenant is there, everything's right. And what do? They finally get the head honcho involved, which, by the way, means this is not too long after the time of Joshua when this is happening. Phineas, and what do? Ask a better question. Thank God. Shall we go out once more to battle against our brothers? Or shall we cease? You know what? After 2 failures, you would think after the first one, you probably would have gone here. After 2 failures, they learned the right question. Are you behind this? Is the unsaid part of what they're saying. Asking the question. Go up tomorrow, for I will give them into your hand. Not what happens in the rest of the chapter, go and do that, but I will give them into your hand.
Mm-hmm.
I just find it funny.
It's like we follow our zeal, but not our God, with zeal. There's a difference between the two.
Who's the one who's been offended, by the way?
Yeah.
Ultimately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I didn't really bring that before him, you know? Yeah, this human problem is a human problem, not a God problem. Not until the humans can't solve it, then it's a God problem. Be like, all right, if that's how y'all want to run it, that's how y'all want to run it, man. But this is what happens, you know? When you get Darvoed by the people that did the problem, it blows up into a gigantic, national problem / entire group problem, right? Like, I'm not a Catholic, right? I don't think Catholic theology is legit, but Catholics as a whole would not have to answer for the crimes of a few priests if the organization just, actually valued justice. The Southern Baptist Convention would not be in the position where all its members have to answer for the crimes of a few people right? So it's like, when you don't, it's exactly what the Torah said, right? When you don't deal with these capital crimes quickly and swiftly, and by quickly and swiftly, I just mean when you get proper evidence to make a good decision, then the weight of it falls back on the rest of the group that's associated with you for guilt or for reputation. You don't have to like them. That's life. Get with it or get to step in. Go build your own universe. Or that's not how things work.
And I think one of the most condemning parts of the story is the end of where we just read, where, now that we failed 2 times, I guess we get the high priest involved. Even though from the very beginning a Levite was involved, he didn't think, I should call my boss. My guess being that maybe Phineas knows his reputation. If Phineas is doing his job well, which there's some little ambiguity there, considering what's happening in Israel these days with Levites and the like. But let's set that aside. Like, okay, when do we come to God and God's representative at this point in time in history? After everything else has gone wrong. After everything we've tried to do has failed. We placated God, we think we are. Like, we've asked him what to do, but we didn't do it the right way. We kind of, King Croesus of Lydia at the Oracle of Delphi, when he's about to be attacked by the Persians, he asked the Oracle, hey, if I go up against the Persians, will I win? And the Oracle says, if you fight him, a great empire will fall. Which, by the way, is ambiguous language that can mean either one. And he takes it to think it's going to be me that's going to win. And yet he's the one who gets beaten by the Persians. Assuming that story is true. Given by Herodotus, so always asterisk beside that. But same thing here. God has given them answers on what to do. He's even given them his high priest. It takes him to the point to actually recognize, he was being deliberately vague, even in his intentionality, because we're not doing this correctly. And yet they still don't get the lesson, even when he gives them the victory in a little bit. Boggles the mind.
That's tough, man. That's tough.
Are you ready to go to the next part?
Yes, sir.
All right. So Israel set men in ambush around Gibeah, and the people of Israel went up against the people of Benjamin on the 3rd day and set themselves in array against Gibeah as at other times. And the people of Benjamin went out against the people and were drawn away from the city. And as at other times, they began to strike and kill some of the people on the highways, one of which goes up to Bethel and the other to Gibeah, and in the open country about 30 men of Israel. And the people of Benjamin said, they are routed before us as at the first. But the people of Israel said, let us flee and draw them away from the city to the highways. All the men of Israel rose up out of their place and set themselves in array at Baal Tamar. And the men of Israel who were in ambush rushed out of their place from Mare Gibeah. And there came against Gibeah 10,000 chosen men out of all Israel, and the battle was hard. But the Benjamites did not know that disaster was close upon them. And the Lord defeated Benjamin before Israel, and the people of Israel destroyed 25,100 men of Benjamin that day. And all these were men who drew the sword, so the people of Benjamin saw that they were defeated. The men of Israel gave ground to Benjamin because they trusted the men in ambush, whom they had set up against Gibeah. Then the men in ambush hurried and rushed against Gibeah. The men in ambush moved out and struck all the city with the edge of the sword. Now the appointed signal between the men of Israel and the men in the main ambush was that when they made a great cloud of smoke rise up out of the city, the men of Israel should turn in battle. Now Benjamin had begun to strike and kill about 30 men of Israel. They said, surely they are defeated before us as in the first battle. But when the signal began to rise out of the city in a column of smoke, the Benjamites looked behind him, and behold, the whole of the city was up in smoke to heaven. Then the men of Israel turned, and the men of Benjamin were dismayed, for they saw that disaster was close upon them. Therefore they turned their backs before the men of Israel in the direction of the wilderness, but the battle overtook them. And those who came out of the cities were destroying them in their midst. Surrounding the Benjaminites, they pursued them and trod them down from Nohah as far as opposite Gibeah on the east. 18,000 men of Benjamin fell, all of them men of valor. And they turned and fled toward the wilderness up to the rock of Rimmon. 5,000 men of them were cut down in the highways, and they were pursued hard to Gideon. 2,000 men of them were struck down. So all who fell that day of Benjamin were 25,000 men who drew the sword, all of them men of valor. But 600 men turned and fled toward the wilderness to the rock of Rimmon, and remained at the rock of Rimmon 4 months. And the men of Israel turned back against the people of Benjamin and struck them with the edge of the sword, the city, men and beasts, and all that they found. And all the towns that they found were they set on fire.
Nice. Kill it with fire.
Right? That's exactly what God said to do, right?
Kill it with fire, man. You know? So at this point, it should be done. Right? But, you know, the anger of man does not produce the righteousness of God. So time will tell if their turning to God was in full. You know, it's like you're willing to submit your prayer life and your sacrifices to God, but are you willing to lay down your perception of the pursuit of justice? Are you willing? Or is it your vengeance that has to be satiated? We'll see. We'll see. It's Judges, so you all already know the answer to that, because the answer is always going to be the worst possible choice amongst possible choices in this book.
Yeah, and I want to point back to Deuteronomy real quick to think, why would they be going about this? I'm going to go Deuteronomy 13, 12 through 18. You can go a little before then too, but for the sake of time. If you hear in one of your cities, which the Lord your God is giving you to dwell there, that certain worthless fellows have gone out among you and have drawn away the inhabitants of their city, saying, let us go and serve other gods, which you have not known. Then you shall inquire and make search and ask diligently. And behold, if it is true and certain that such an abomination has been done among you, you shall surely put the inhabitants of that city to the sword, devoting it to destruction, all who are in it and its cattle with the edge of the sword. You shall gather all its spoil into the midst of its open square and burn the city and all its spoil with fire as a whole burnt offering to the Lord your God. It shall be a heap forever. It shall not be built again. None of the devoted things shall stick to your hand, that the Lord may turn from the fierceness of his anger and show you mercy and have compassion on you and multiply you as he swore to your fathers. If you obey the voice of the Lord your God, keeping all his commandments that I am commanding you today and doing what is right in the sight of the Lord your God. So this is in the law what they're supposed to do if they want to go serve other gods. Yet you could argue that's still in place here. But did they ask diligently? Did they search? Did they question? No.
Mm-hmm.
Benjamin is not a victim here, but they are a victim because the law has been misplaced once again to serve the anger of the Israelites.
In this case, just a portion of it was skipped altogether. It's like, had they done a diligent investigation, they would have realized what you and I pointed out earlier, which is you sent her to death.
Mm-hmm.
You sent her to death, bro. So really, it's you. You're the one that we should put all this on. You and
there's no law against sentencing a Levite to death.
Yeah, like what are we doing, bro? You know, but y'all had a narrative, so you ran with it.
Huh?
instead of actually pursuing justice. And that's something. Do we likewise investigate claims of social injustice, or do we just run with the narrative and create bigger fights than actually need to happen?
There's a thought in recent times. It's just believe the victim. And you know what? There is some truth behind that. If they're a victim. Not everyone proclaiming themselves to be a victim is a victim. If we just trust every victim who says they're a victim out there, then the wrong people are going to get hurt. And if you create a society built around the idea of just believing people when they send accusations out, you're helping no one. Not even true victims.
Yep. It's the lesson that we should have learned from Me Too. But we didn't.
Multiple women horribly abused by men and women in the industry and many others. Their stories needed to be told. And then when other people saw what was happening, oh, well, suddenly it happened to me too, even though it never did.
Mm-hmm.
Taking truth and using it for your own purposes is evil.
Yep. And then when you start to point out, the fact that some of these ladies lied, that the liars were liars, what do? You know what they did? Darvo. Deny the accusation of lying, accuse you of being misogynistic, and then reverse the true victim and offender. I told you, lock that acronym in your heads, y'all. Darvo, bro. Don't let people, fleece you, man. Because of the principle, and Darvo works because of the principle that Jesus laid out in John chapter 3. That if your works really are of God, you will push into the light so that it can be manifested, so that it can be made known that your deeds were done in the light. But if you actually love darkness, you will run from clarification and light, because you know deep down that your deeds are actually evil and you don't want them to be exposed.
And the sad fact of the matter here is that the people seeking justice aren't the heroes either. There are no heroes in this story. And normally that'd be the kind of thing where I kind of like check out of a story or a movie. Like, I hate Chinatown to this day. I hate it, Jake. It's Chinatown. It's like, why? Why would I forget? Bad things are still happening. Someone can still do something. You know what? That's why I'm not a fan of downer endings and the like. And this, hey, downer ending in the story. We're not at the end yet, but sorry to spoil something that happened 3,000 plus years ago. Downer ending.
This man said anti-hero? That sounds like villain to me.
But what we have right here is history. And history, sometimes, a lot more than we want to say, doesn't have a hero in it. We have people acting under their own devices, proclaiming themselves faithful, proclaiming themselves people of God, doing the exact opposite of what he said to do. If you have proof, do this. To these cities, not to everybody. There's no chance to let anyone surrender and explain themselves. There are some people at Benjamin who probably did nothing wrong, and yet they've been called up to war, and maybe they don't know the full context of this. And yet, here we go. We're down from however many thousand to 600 men, which is going to create a problem that you caused that makes further problems down the road.
Yeah.
If instead, like, this should be a great statement, and it is, but it should be greater. 35, and the Lord defeated Benjamin before Israel. It's his victory, but it doesn't stop there with his victory. It stops with Israel's victory over the people of Benjamin, where they saw their justice and not the Lord's justice.
Yeah, this is crazy, bro. This is crazy. No, we got to get into chapter 21, because this is where they're all that ego that you highlighted in them. 21 is what shows it all. 21 is what shows it for what it is.
All right. 21 verses 1 through 12. Now the men of Israel had sworn at Mizpah, no one of us shall give his daughter in marriage to Benjamin. And the people came to Bethel and sat there till evening before God, and they lifted up their voices and wept bitterly. And they said, O Lord, the God of Israel, why has this happened in Israel, that today there should be one tribe lacking in Israel? And the next day the people rose early and built there an altar and offered burnt offerings and peace offerings. And the people of Israel said, which of all the tribes of Israel did not come up in the assembly to the Lord? For they had taken an oath concerning him who did not come up to the Lord in Mizpah, saying, he shall surely be put to death. And the people of Israel had compassion for Benjamin, their brother. We'll talk about the translation of that in a bit. One tribe is cut off from Israel this day. What shall we do for wives for those who are left? Since we have sworn by the Lord that we will not give them any of our daughters for wives. And they said, what one is there of the tribes of Israel that did not come up to the Lord to Mizpah? And behold, no one had come to the camp from Jabesh Gilead to the assembly. But when the people were mustered, behold, not one of the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead was there. So the congregation sent 12,000 of their bravest men there and commanded them, go and strike the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead with the edge of the sword, also the women and the little ones. This is what you shall do. Every male and every woman that is lain with a male you shall devote to destruction. And they found among the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead 400 young virgins who had not known a man by lying with him, and they brought them to the camp at Shiloh, which is in the land of Canaan. Ouch.
Ouch, indeed. You got me curious though. What's the translation?
Okay. It happens in 15 as well. So ESV translates this as compassion, which it could be translated as, but really, this is the word used, niham. Sorry, I forgot to flip which one is which. Niham instead of nakam. One of them means compassion. I'm pretty sure it's naham. And the nakam is like the grief or feeling sorry for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure the nakam is the one that is used. Sorry, I forgot to write down the exact one. Not kicking myself. But the idea being, this is not them. Oh, we have compassion, like Jesus had compassion for the lost sheep in front of him because they were like, sheep without a shepherd or blah, blah, blah. This is, we done screwed up. We done goofed. What do we do?
That's funny. Oh man, that's funny. Yeah. That was going to be my point in this is like, these are some stupid promises y'all are making. Like, they're stupid for two reasons. One, because of all the downstream effects that you'll unpack. But what do these promises have to do with justice? Like,
not a damn thing.
Like, no, I have anything to do with it. Like, you're mad at Benjamin, and it's like, okay, fine, but like, are we really gonna kill the demographics ratio of Israel over this? Over something that's already been punished to arguably a fuller extent than the law, arguably beyond the law. But are we really gonna keep this up? And it's like, they built the altar and they offer burnt offerings and peace offerings, but they don't offer an offering for making a stupid vow. This is Jephthah's problem, but like
once again
on a national level, like if anyone would just be humble and admit it was a dumb vow, it was a dumb series of vows. God actually gave you a clause in Leviticus to to kind of take a chastisement and not have to fulfill a stupid vow and a promise that
it was Niham, the correct one.
Niham.
Sorry to interrupt you. Niham is the correct one.
And it's like, Niham is like worldly sorrow instead of godly sorrow, as I'm understanding it.
Yeah, because the Nakam is used, if I remember correctly, in like when Noah is born, there's a phrase used there by his dad. It'd be like, he will bring relief to the people of the earth. And the calm, like compassion, relief, rest, that kind of thing. I don't know why they translated it this way. Normally I'm on their side, but I'd have to ask them.
I have to ask them what their rationale is here. Yeah, nah.
Yeah, because
I get that.
Like you said last time, there's a way out of this, guys. Outside of the fact that you worship God, there's a way out of this. If that's not enough for you for some reason, he put something in the law, which, by the way, your high priest is right there, who should know this law, which is stated multiple times over in the Tanakh. I'm pretty sure one time in Leviticus and then Deuteronomy?
Yeah, the one I know is in Leviticus, but it probably is in Deuteronomy as well. Deuteronomy usually repeats the big stuff.
Yeah. So that means if he's due diligent at his job, which is memorizing this, so yeah, it's supposed to be written down, but you also have a guy who knows it by heart. He would have said, guys, what are you worried about? No need to grieve. Yeah, sure, you screwed up. We'll get repentance for that later on. But like, all you have to do is say, God, we screwed up. Here's his offering. And yet he's silent. Or maybe he did and they didn't listen. If I'm going to be charitable.
If we're going to be charitable. But yeah, it's like these people don't know the law. It's like the people that repeat history are the ones that don't know it. They don't know history because they don't read it.
And know what the worst part of this? They make this God's problem. This is your fault this happened, by the way. Oh Lord, the God of Israel, why has this happened in Israel that the day there should be one tribe lacking in Israel? Well, you know why. They didn't tell you to do that. God, this is your fault.
Man, that is funny. That is funny, man. We trying to Darvo God.
Right? The sheer audacity.
Like, these people, man. But, you're trying to fix a problem on your own. This is what life is like without a king. I'm in trouble. I don't have anyone to ask. Not really. I have someone I can complain to, but I don't have anyone I can ask.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to fix it on my own.
Mm.
That's tough, man. That's tough. And so, they do this little sham of a war, this little fake kidnapping of the women. It's like, okay. So basically, for anyone, like, if the plan went over y'all's heads, right? They didn't really raid them. The problem is we can't give our ladies to Benjamin because we...
That's next.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and get into that because you wanted to talk about both of these together anyway.
Yeah.
Let's finish this off.
Yeah.
13 to 25. Then the whole congregation sent word to the people of Benjamin who were at the rock of Rimmon and proclaimed peace to them. And Benjamin returned at that time. And they gave them the women whom they had saved alive of the women of Jabesh Gilead, but they were not enough for them because we're 200 down.
Yep.
And the people had compassion. The people had grief on Benjamin because the Lord had made a breach in the tribes of Israel. Then the elders of the congregation said, what shall we do for wives for those who are left since the women are destroyed out of Benjamin? And it said there must be an inheritance for the survivors of Benjamin, that a tribe not be blotted out from Israel. Yet we cannot give them wives from our daughters. For the people of Israel have sworn, cursed be he who gives a wife to Benjamin. So they said, behold, there is a yearly feast of the Lord at Shiloh, which is north of Bethel, on the east of the highway that goes up from Bethel to Shechem and south of Lebanon. And they commanded the people of Benjamin, go and lie in ambush in the vineyards and watch. If the daughters of Shiloh come out to dance in the dances, then come out of the vineyards and snatch each man his wife from the daughters of Shiloh and go to the land of Benjamin. And when their fathers or their brothers come to complain to us, we will say to them, grant them graciously to us because we did not take for each man to them his wife in battle, neither did you give them to them, else you would now be guilty. And the people of Benjamin did so and took their wives according to their number from the dancers whom they carried off. Then they went and returned to their inheritance and rebuilt the towns and lived in them. And the people of Israel departed from there at that time, every man to his tribe and family, and they went out from there, every man to his inheritance. In those days, there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes.
Man, it's just tough, man. Because it's like, if you're gonna do this, just admit your initial vow was stupid instead of whatever this is. You know what I'm saying? Like what are we doing, bro?
You know how you don't have to look for loopholes when you have no reason to look for them.
Yeah, this is quite nasty work.
I want everyone at home. Here's a scoreboard. Okay, here's a play-by-play. To solve the murder of a raped concubine, Israel engineers a situation for hundreds of young women to be maritally raped after destroying the majority of an entire tribe. So I want you to say point A, point B.
Mm-hmm.
This is the game plan. You fighting, play for any coach that gives you that game plan?
See, but this is why I feel like this whole thing is fake. Like, the second half of this is fake. I wonder if the first half of this is also fake. Because the command in verse 10, right? Go and strike the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead with the edge of the sword. Also the women and the little ones.
Mm-hmm.
They command a total destruction. This is what you shall do. Every male and every woman that has lain with a male, you shall devote to destruction. So we already given like contradictory commands. Well, which is it? Do you want me to take out everybody, or do you want me to take out just the people that have been sexually active? Which one is it, bruh? Like this, you know what I'm saying? This is a contradiction in the Bible, but it's not the Bible's contradiction. The Bible is recording the actions and words of inconsistent humans that are trying to fix a problem of their own making. Yes. So verse 12, they find among the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead 400 young virgins that didn't do anything sexually, brought them back. The text don't even say they actually destroyed all the people. This is why I'm suspicious, bro. I'm like, I know you said the words go and strike the inhabitants, but I wish I could see the body language, bro. Were you like, hey man, with a wink and an hey, go and strike the go and strike them. Is that how you said it? Because I get the feeling that's how they said it.
It's like
we're gonna disguise it as a righteous war.
Yeah, but you don't have to. Just get the part that you really want.
Right.
If they make a fuss, yeah, you've already been given. I mean, you're supposed to kill them anyways, but like, you have to.
Right. You're really there. You're there to collect virgins to fix our problem. That's why
that we made.
But like the official, what we told NPR was like. That's what I'm wondering about this, bro. Like they're all such liars at the end. Why should I even trust this? They lied about everything else so far, and at no point is it confirmed, right? Everywhere else in the Old Testament, when it says, hey, dispossess them from the land, go destroy them totally, it's like, and then they did that. They were told to do A, and then they did A. This doesn't follow that pattern. They were told to do A, and then after commanding to do A, I kind of also give you a command that contradicts A, and then we're never going to confirm if they even did A.
Okay, so real quick, I just happened to think about this. I like your idea more and more and more I think of it, because 2 books over, Jabesh Gilead is a thing. Like, enough of a thriving city to like support Saul and like love him. Like now, there could have been hundreds of years in between if they had totally destroyed it.
Right.
But the whole point of this totally destroying was never settling there at all.
Right. So like, even though I think I wouldn't use this to prove the other theory about like the war passages in Joshua, because these people are idiots. So like, I can't base a theology off of that, but in this specific context, I do wonder if this whole thing was just a lie, because the outcome of battle 1 here sets up the whole plan for the second half of this way too perfectly for me to think they're unrelated. It's like, oh, so you also just happen to have like a festival arriving around the time you just so happen to have 400 quote unquote POWs. I mean, I don't know who sends their POWs dancing. Like, this is like, you know what I'm saying, bro? Like, if I'm a POW and you send me off to freaking Footloose, I'm running. Like, I'm not hanging around. This is the Squid Games, but for dancing. Now go, snatch yourself a wife. Like, nah, man. Like, this, for me, this whole thing was a setup, bro. We're going to go take 400 women that may or may not have just been given to us, but we're just going to, officially say it was a battle. And then we're also going to say that they were, oh, what a tragedy. They were kidnapped. Oh, darn.
Those are the extras.
Yeah. Back to business, y'all. Really?
This is one of those things that if I was in a creative writing class and someone came up to me, this was their story, I would have said, what is the lesson I'm supposed to learn? Like, why did you write this? Because chances are it would have been a nihilistic idiot I met in college multiple times over. He's like, this is how the world works, man. But like, no, like, why is this written down in the same book that has, the feeding of the 5,000, the parting of the Red Sea, the time of the end of days? Like, why is this here? Well, it's, as most always, pointing a mirror at us.
Mm-hmm.
How many times have we screwed up so badly that rather than doing the right thing, knees on ground, hands are raised up to heaven, God forgive me, we said, I got it. And we made things 10, 20, 100 times worse, arbitrary number here. And then it ends as it does. In those days, there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. I'm not a repetition guy because that gets annoying to me.
Mm-hmm.
But when I see something repeated in scripture, even I stop and pay attention. This is what you're like, even if you have a knowledge of me. What I want you to be like is the exact opposite of this, Israel, Christian.
Well, this is why.
Go ahead.
Like it is the commentary on the book, but also the story, right? Like why end with this line instead of verse 24? Partly to let you know they planned this, right? Everywhere else in the book of Judges, when you get that phrase, in those days, there is no king in Israel, it always either comes after or before someone's intentional plan that's stupid. So, like, it'd be weird to me if it closed on something that wasn't their intentional plan that's stupid.
Yes.
Like, this is just the coup d'etat. It's like every other stupid plan was like an individual. This is like, no, this one was all of you. Like, you all co-signed this.
But it's also a subversion of sorts. Well, not of sorts. Like that line, everyone meant to his inheritance, is a callback to Joshua right before he dies. When things were good.
Yeah.
When people served the Lord. And then you come here, every man went to his inheritance. And then you end with the line, there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. We're supposed to see, oh, this is where you were. This is where you are now. You have no one to blame but yourselves. So reader of this, when this is being written down, reader of this now, learn from this. Serve your true king.
Yep. Nasty work. But, that's Judges, man. As a little foretaste of where it is you're going. I should also point out that Judges is kind of like the ridiculously long prologue to Ruth. I didn't see it that way until I was doing my transgenderism and the gospel series. It sounds like those three things really shouldn't connect, but it's interesting how they do.
Yes.
Yeah. But I mean, you said it before on your show, if you want structured and orderly theology, you come here and you subscribe to Let Nothing Move You. If you're more into neuroticism, I got you.
He makes it work.
He does. It's like, man, Christian is always just, he'll be like, dang, bro, that title came out of nowhere, bro. Weren't you just in Matthew? I mean, yeah, I know.
You know what? That's why we work so well together. Brian, do you have anything else you want to say on this before we wrap up?
No, nothing on this. Just, people like meditate on what we was talking about in this, man. Like, especially these meditations on justice and hypocrisy, because they're big. They're big. It's like I wanted to jump in on this one because out of all the places that are useful for talking about justice, especially in the histories of Israel, my two favorite places for talking social justice are this story here in Judges and the story of Absalom. And
someone else who took advantage of the situation.
Yeah. With another king that decided to not want to be a king and kind of created his own problem. Like we need to actually pay attention to the histories of Israel more than we do sometimes. sit in the text, use our imagination, put ourselves there, look at it from a bunch of different angles, bro. That's what imagination is for, to take the words of the scripture and create your own VR helmet in your own head out of it. So you can walk around, really feel the weight of glory and the weight of sin, so that the love of God shown through the cross can actually be fully savored, because that's Jesus's desire. The final thing he really asked the Father for in John was that we would see his glory, was that we would be where he is, so that we would see his glory. This life is a foretaste. So sit in the scripture, meditate on it, and just learn to be satisfied with being in awe of your God. And having that be enough, that's why Christian and I do what we do, man. Like, someone said to me very recently, man, Kari, I just want the church to really know Jesus. I don't want to get too distracted in the weeds with the scholarly stuff. And I agree with him, but here's the point. When a sheep gets lost, where do they go? The open field or the weeds? They get lost in the weeds, right? So Christian and I, as we're trying to do what we can to rescue some lost sheep and save others, we're going to go into the weeds of intellectualism to try to draw you back to the simplicity that's in Christ. Remember that.
Where can the good people find you?
Hey, man, YouTube, Spotify, Apple. Look me up, man. Foreign Saints. The red background with the modern-looking dove. Can't miss it.
Perfect. So next time we will be in the Book of Ruth. Ryan may be joining us for some of that, and Joshua may as well. Everything's kind of up in the air right now. We're figuring stuff out. So plan to do at least 2 episodes on Ruth, and then we'll get into 1 Samuel. Hey, don't skip over Ruth, baby. There's plenty of wonderful things in this book. There's a reason it's there. It's not just there because they passed it down. It's there because there's a lot of Jesus in it and a bit more. So thank you again, Karai, for working with me today. And as usual, going over 2 hours, because, we don't shut up. But the people love us shutting up. I see the numbers. As much as I make fun of only having 10 listeners, maybe they bump up a little bit when you're up. You get 12, man.
That. Nice.
Yeah. So, guys, thank you for all you do. Thanks for taking all the ribbing at your expense. Please get a chance to leave a 5-star review in your podcasting platform of choice. Helps with the rating share, help us find more people. Feel free to share the show with your friends and family members. If you're interested in my fiction writing, you can find my works at starvewritersguild.com or on Amazon by searching for the name MC Ashley. If you're all interested in some further solid studies into the Bible and its teachings, then check out the other members of the NSL Ministries Podcasting Network. You can find me specifically on systematic ecology, why I don't like, Friday Night Frights, Spidey Swing By, some joyful noises. You can contact me at letnothingmoviepodcast@gmail.com. I'd like to extend a special thank you to Joshua Knoll for the editing that he does and for the music he has to the podcast. And I will also like to say thank you to everyone who's been praying for him and his wife after the passing of her mother. I know they truly do appreciate that. It's a rough time, and they've done really well, all things considered. And with all that in mind, God bless you all in accordance to his will and not mine. Allow me one more time to remind you, let nothing move you.